right, welcome to Computational Combat. We're looking at mixed martial arts through the eyes of a betting algorithm. I'm Dylan Grayson, joined by the brains of the operation, Johnny Koppelman, and he downloaded an app and pretty promised he doesn't have a fever. It's Connor Broder. Connor, how are you doing?
If the UFC is concerned, very healthy.
Yes, of course. I'm just going to get it out of the way now because we want to talk about the fights here. But this is fucking bullshit that they're doing this indoors in Florida, 100% capacity, without masks. Like, with the way vaccinations are going, they could just wait a few fucking months. Like, the event in July in Vegas doesn't concern me nearly as much. I have a feeling that fighters are going to start testing positive a few days after the fight. And it puts people at risk. It puts the fighters at risk. It's dumb. It's stupid. And but you do have to download an app and promise the UFC that you're not actively sick. So that's
All right, bye, Johnny.
Something. Yep. Johnny's disappeared. I assume he's quickly going to check his temperature.
Yeah, and as well, the UFC will think I'm good.
Right. Yeah. So with that out of the way, let's talk about what we actually talk about here. So Johnny, how did we do last week?
The 96% favorite play worked out in a weird way that no one could have predicted, but it came through. So that was cool. A lot of the plays came through, but we came down 10% because of actually a couple of big value plays we took. Like the one on the main event with Kelvin Gastelum, that was a value play, but we found a decent amount of value on him. And whereas I liked taking the play because I thought it was a good bet, that hurt us. So.
Hey, it happens. All over time is what matters, week over week. All right, so this week, with that in mind, we are looking at UFC 261. And from here on out, the criticism will be entirely on how shit this card is. Yay!
It's not terrible.
Right.
There's a couple of fights I'm really hyped on in the main card.
We'll get there. There are certainly some exciting fights, but there's
like
some utter
7 good fights,
bullshit, which is, All right, let me just pull up what I need to pull up because I realize I don't have it open yet. Johnny, I feel like you're going to be very excited because you have a lot of good names to pronounce tonight with this card.
But the main card, I know all those names because they're big names, so I'm not even.
All right, well, let's start at the prelims then.
Yeah.
I mean, the first prelim that we have, it's going to be impossible for me to
give me just one moment because I'm trying to open up the UFC's website because I like having the visuals up there for anyone who does watch this on YouTube and actually keep the tab open the whole time. All right, and so we are starting from the very first prelim. We've got Liang Na versus Ariane Carnelossi. So, interestingly enough, first UFC show back in front of a crowd. The early prelims have some names that I've never heard of, people that I've never seen before. Like, I understand that it's going to happen to some extent, but it's really weird what's going on here. So this is a strawweight bout. Looking at Carnelossi's record, her only losses are to Angela Hill and Amanda Ribas. So, I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. And her loss to Ribas was her professional debut. So that was still a long time ago. That being said, Na's record is almost entirely in a promotion called WLF. And looking at WLF, I'm going to keep bringing them up tonight because there are a lot of fighters that have come out of there tonight. And I'm not super impressed with a good record from WLF. A lot of these guys seem to have padded records. Liang Na being the least of those. Her record doesn't seem that padded, but not very impressive. I'm taking Carnelossi.
So, another persistent theme that's going to be coming up tonight, or today, I guess, is holy shit, why is there no footage on any of these people? The most recent footage I could find from Na Liang, or Liang Na, depending on if you're on Tapology, the UFC website, was from 2017. A couple things that I thought about, which helped influence where I'm coming from, are that one, Na Liang is way bigger than Carnelossi. She has 7 inches of height and I can't do basic math, like 6 inches of reach.
Wait a minute.
And
she's got a 7-inch height advantage at strawweight?
Yeah, dude, Carnelossi's 5'2".
But she's at strawweight.
Yeah, she's 5'9". She's big.
5'9" strawweight?
She's fucking big.
Get the fuck out of here. That's
Yeah,
That's
so
going to be interesting to watch, honestly.
Angela Hill's a good striker, but even then, Carnelossi kind of just plodded around the cage following her, didn't really have good head movement. She was really aggressive, but she got outclinched. She couldn't cut off the cage. Liang, in the most recent fight I could find of hers, like she opened it immediately with a blast double leg. She's super scrambly and aggressive on the ground. The fact that she's so much bigger, is extremely like scrambly and aggressive when it comes to being on the ground and having her hands on her opponent. I'm gonna take Na Liang on that fight. She's bigger, she's scramblier. Yeah, she's slightly less proven by way of having less like recognizable names on her record, but like there's so much difference in like size. I don't know.
Fair enough. And Johnny, obviously nothing from the algorithm. We have some debuts here.
Yeah.
All right, so Johnny, I'm going to throw it to you for this one with pronunciation here.
Sorry, I can't do it. Me and the algorithm are quiet on this one. There's a no name, so I just.
Yeah, just kidding. This is Jeffrey Molina versus Archie Long. And the reason I pronounce that with confidence is because I watched interviews where other people said it that way.
How'd they say it?
Archie Long?
Archilong?
Yeah,
That's
which
cool.
I guess it some places have the name separated out. Some have it as a mononym. This seems to be like I thought that this was a thing in Mongolia, but some of the fighters from China have it this week, and I'm not sure if it's like a specific region of China. Like I'm totally not aware of that kind of thing. But the places that have had it as two separate names, I guess it would be pronounced like Qilong Ar or something like that. But I did watch some interviews to make sure that I didn't absolutely butcher that because I was going to otherwise.
Yeah, he's from Inner Mongolia, which is in China.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. So Inner Mongolia is going to have a lot of Mongolian cultural influence. That would explain a little bit. But yeah, once again, Archulong is a WLF fighter, and his record is definitely padded. Looking at some of his wins, his opponents had really bad records going into those fights, at least to be facing somebody with his record. So then you have Jeffrey Molina, who has wins in LFA and a Contender Series win. You know, not knowing too much about their styles individually, I'm much more impressed with Molina. So I'm taking him.
Yeah, I mean, first off, great comparison of nicknames. You have how do you say shit? How do you say his name again?
Archer Long?
Archilong as the Mongolian murderer, and Jeff Molina. Kidding, of course, kidding. Yeah, so this was a dude who I literally couldn't find anything recent on. But the stuff that I could find, his defense didn't look that great. When he tended to shoot for takedowns, he did it from super far out. He had like an okay-ish submission game. Molina, at least from his fight, I want to say it was on the Contender Series versus Jacob Silva. Yeah, like he looked much more patient. He looked like he had better defense. I'm going to take Molina in that one.
All right, and once again, we have a debut here, so nothing from the algorithm. That'll be a little bit of a pattern here because it continues. Two patterns going on at once here as Kazula Vargas takes on Rongju. So I guess three patterns here because we have the mononym, we have a WLF fighter with a padded record, and we have a debut. So, I mean, I don't know much to say here. Kazula Vargas is 0-2 in the UFC. One of those losses was by DQ, where he illegally kneed Brock Weaver. You know, there's been a lot of talk about illegal knees, and I do think that Vargas deserved to lose that fight by DQ, but he did knee Brock Weaver directly in the head. So I do like that because Brock Weaver is an animal abusing piece of shit, and I don't stand for that. Fuck him. That being said, Vargas is 0-2 in the UFC, and Rongju has got a padded record. I'm going to take Vargas just because he's at least proven himself to be somewhat competitive in the UFC, but I don't have much to go on here.
Yeah, I similarly don't have a lot to say about this, at least from Vargas's fight where he didn't get DQ'd against Alex De Silva. De Silva was able to control him a lot throughout the 3 rounds with like grappling, just better striking and cage control. From what I could find on Wrong, he has good striking. He's patient. He pressures. I think Vargas's record doesn't. I think his record is not representative of his skill level. But at the same time, I don't think that Vargas can do any wrong. So I'm taking Wrong. That came out way better in my head.
That's all right. It
All I
happens.
had in my notes was Wrong can do no wrong. Yeah, I'm taking him.
All right,
I'm gonna
moving on
stop talking now.
once again a debut. So moving on to this next one.
Ooh, Dana
There's
Batgirl.
no debut. Oh no,
Wait.
no, there's no debuts here.
Oh, you have stats on him too?
Yeah.
Oh shit, never mind. Go ahead.
Oh, I thought you meant this coming fight was another debut.
No. Okay. Lovely.
Sorry, my bad. Yeah, this coming fight is not a debut.
Yes. We've got Dana Batgirl versus Kevin Natividad. So the biggest impression that's been left on me of either of these guys was that Kevin Natividad's UFC debut was fucking bullshit because he got knocked out with a massive uppercut by Miles Johns as Miles Johns had his fingers like, I don't know, 3/4 of the way into the wrist of Natividad's glove. It was the most egregious glove grab I have ever seen, and he used that to set up an uppercut. That doesn't really say much about Natividad, besides that I kind of feel bad for him. Yeah, Natividad has good wins in LFA, and that impresses me more than anything I've seen Batgirl do, because his UFC record isn't particularly impressive, and then the rest of it is Mongolian regionals, and I really can't tell you much about the Mongolian regional scene of MMA, so I'm going to go with Natividad, and hopefully he can just have a nice, clean fight.
So, I keep wanting to call him Batgirl. Dana
Batgirl.
Yeah, but Batgirl, from the stuff that I've seen of him, he seems to like kind of tend to counter in combination, but he's also pretty hittable. Like he doesn't have great defense. He likes to pressure. He has a style that's relatively susceptible to low kicks. But at the same time, versus Miles Johns, yeah, Johns knocked him out while cheating. But at the same time, throughout the entire fight, Natividad was getting consistently countered. He would like leap in for combinations, but he didn't really defend while he was doing that. He kind of just jumped in to throwing strikes. I'm going to take the dude who seems more comfortable countering in Batgirl.
All right, and we throw to the algorithm for the first time. Johnny?
So I'm going to make this easy on myself. Kevin. Kevin is the favorite predicted by the algorithm as a 52% favorite. Which is slight, but he's an underdog on the book, so he caught value there. If you're throwing everything, you're going to put 11.9% on Kevin. And if you're throwing only a specific amount of a fund, you're going to throw 0.69% on Kevin.
All right. Moving on to our next one here. We have a featherweight bout between Patrick Sabatini and Tristan Connolly. So Connolly debuted in 2019 as a late notice replacement to fight Michel Pereira. And Pereira decided to gas himself up by doing backflips and breakdancing in the middle of the fight. And then Connolly decided, oh, he's tired, I'm going to wrestle fuck him. And he did that. And the interesting thing here is that fight was at welterweight. And this fight is at featherweight. And he's naturally a lightweight. So Pat Sabatini has like a lot of hype around him, it seems, at least on Reddit for some reason. But I mean, Sabatini is the CFFC featherweight champion. That's a very good regional, right? Based out of Philly. But he's facing a guy who is able to out wrestle a massive welterweight, and he is a featherweight. So I'm going to lean towards Connolly here because I think he'll be able to implement a wrestling game on such a small guy comparatively. But, you know, maybe it is just entirely that Pereira was so exhausted. We'll see, but I'm going Connolly.
Yeah, so there were a few fighters where I was like, okay, the most recent fight that's on YouTube is from like 4 years ago. I guess that's good enough. I'll try and glean something from it. I could not find anything for Pat Sabatini. The closest I came was Cage or CFFC put on their Facebook page slow motion highlights of him getting a knockout, and I was like, that tells me nothing. I'm taking Connolly. I know he's tough. I know he's consistent. I wish I had something to say about Pat Sabatini.
And I'm going to guess that we have nothing for the algorithm here, right?
Correct.
All right, moving on to our next one. This is a middleweight bout between Carl Roberson and Brendan Allen. So back in 2019, back when people could responsibly go to a UFC event, I went to a UFC event in Boston where this young kid named Brendan Allen had an impressive win by submitting Kevin Holland. How things have changed since then. Since then, Brendan Allen has only fought once, and it was a loss to Sean Strickland. Shane Strickland is a wrestler. Sean Strickland. And the thing is, looking at Roberson and his style, the way that Strickland beat Allen has nothing to do with what Roberson's going to do. Strickland is a striker who is precise and has like consistent output. And then Roberson seems to be much more grappling and wrestling focused. And I feel like Brendan Allen should be able to get the win here.
Yeah, you kind of stole most of the words out of my mouth. Roberson is not a Strickland-esque striker who can punish Allen for charging in, and I definitely don't think he can stop the grappling, seeing as his 3 most recent losses were getting out-grappled by Cesar Ferreira, Glover Teixeira, and Marvin Vittori, all of whom are very comfortable grappling. Like, will Allen's chin be there for counters from Roberson? Absolutely. Do I think that Roberson is actually going to be able to keep him off for 3 rounds? Fuck no. And as soon as it gets to the ground, I trust Allen to actually get things done.
All right, Johnny, what do you got for us?
Some bad news because it disagrees. It has Carl Robertson as a 62% favorite. What, I said it wrong?
You said Robertson. It's Roberson. No T.
Oh my God. Yeah, it looks like a T from this far away. These aren't prescription. Carl Robertson has a 62% favorite. And obviously he's an underdog on the books. So if you are throwing everything, this is your biggest play, 23.8% on him. Call it 24 for good measure. And if you have a fund, it's 1.39%. I have no opinion on this fight. Personally.
That's interesting. I don't know how I feel about that, but I've been proven wrong before by the algorithm. All right, moving on to our next one, Dwight Grant versus Stefan Sekulic. Not really sure what I've got for this one, to be honest with you. One loss in the UFC and having only otherwise fought in the Serbian Battle Championships, I'm not too keen on Stefan Sekulic. He's just not proven enough.
Yeah, I mean, I also, this is one of those ones where I'm not really certain. Dwight Grant, all right, bye, Dylan. Dwight Grant hits hard. When he fought Rodriguez, like he was clearly doing damage. He dropped him at one point, but he blew his gas tank pretty early trying to rush for a finish. On the other side, Sekulic he's really tough, but he's also seemingly pretty hittable. I'm going to take Grant, but I'm not particularly confident in that.
All right, and we have a debut here. Oh wait, no, we don't.
No, we have we have it, and it picks Dwight Grant. The algorithm puts Dwight Grant as a 60% favorite, but value on Stefan. So if you're throwing everything, 4.76% on Stefan. This is the smallest play of the night, and if you have a fund, 0.28%.
All right, not sure how I feel about that again, but
I don't know these fighters enough. I only know Dwight Grant. I don't know Stefan.
All right, so we move on to a pay-per-view card that is not worth your money.
No, we don't.
Oh wait, no.
No, this is the last prelim.
This is the prelim headliner. My bad.
Yeah.
I'll save that joke for 5 minutes from now. Cowboy Alex Oliveira versus Rude Boy Randy Brown. I don't know if it's just his most recent loss, but something makes me feel like Cowboy's fallen off the wagon a bit. And I feel like Randy Brown's only losses are to people that I think are like at least somewhat decent. I'm going to take Randy Brown here, but I mean, I could see it going the other way, but I'm taking Randy Brown tentatively.
Yeah, so the way that Oliveira likes to fight with the way that he likes to kick, the way he throws his punches, he likes to be the taller, longer guy. I mean, he's 5'11" with a 76.5-inch reach. He fights really long. He's going to be fighting a dude who is 4 inches taller than him with an 1.5 inches of reach. Rude Boy is really good at applying that length when it comes to like body kicks and the way that he grapples and throws like triangle chokes. And Rude Boy has some good wins. Like his win over Barberena is super solid. I'm going to take Randy Brown. I really like him as a fighter.
And despite not being on the main card, Verdict does have this one up. Oh. So the most common pick is Alex Oliveira by decision.
Really?
I don't know.
On Rude Boy.
And the algorithm also thinks Oliveira by 55% favorite. And he's obviously a pretty decent underdog on the books. So if you're throwing everything, 11.9% Oliveira, and either the fun 0.69%. For my opinion, I think the last couple of fights, I didn't really like how Oliveira looked, and I don't think this is a good matchup for him.
We will see.
Styles make fights. I just don't see this. I don't see this matchup good for him.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, moving on to the next one. This is the opening of a pay-per-view that is not worth your money, as the number 6th ranked light heavyweight Anthony Lionheart Smith faces the number 13th ranked Jim Crute. Apparently no longer going as Jimmy Crute.
He's a man
Jimmy
now. Just wait till he becomes James Crute.
Right.
James Crute is my father.
Yeah. I mean, you say he's a man now, and like as a joke, but this kid's young and he's improving every single time he's out there. I've been very impressed by him lately. His submission grappling is solid. He's got knockout power in his hands. And Anthony Smith, I know he's had a decision win since, but Anthony Smith literally got his teeth knocked out by Glover Teixeira. I don't know how durable he is anymore, and I like Jimmy Crute. I'm going with Crute. I think this is going to be his big coming out party.
I'm actually pretty curious as to why you think this card is bad.
The main event.
Yeah, there's a lot of fights I like. The main card I really like.
We'll talk about it. I think it's the most bullshit main event in history. We'll go.
You think this is the most bullshit main event in history? How long have you been watching? 1 week?
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Jesus.
Give it a second. All right.
Bad opinion. So yeah, I don't trust Smith to win a fight with a dude who is a consistent and determined heavy hitter that has good grappling. I mean, he out-grappled Paul Craig. Smith is slightly longer. He's a very tough fighter. He's willing to just sit there and take punishment if he thinks he can tough it through. But I'm not gonna pick him over this guy. I'm not gonna pick him over Jimmy Crute. Jimmy Crute has shown he can actually do things to win fights.
Johnny, what do we got? Oh, wait, verdict.
Verdict, yeah.
Verdict first. Most common pick, Lionheart by decision. But looking at the actual breakdown, it's pretty damn close. The most common pick, Lionheart by decision, 29% of people. Then Crute by decision, 23%. I don't know why you would ever pick Crute by decision, to be honest. I think if he wins, he finishes it somehow.
Yeah, we got Jimbo Crute as a 55% favorite. There's just so much value on Smith on the books because he's a pretty heavy underdog on the books, which is different from verdict, which I always find that interesting. I agree with the books in this case, but because we found value, we're putting 11.9% on Smith if you're throwing everything and 0.69% if you have the fun. What I will say about Smith in this matchup, I think he's definitely tough and he's proven it time and time again. I just don't think toughness wins fights. I think there's more to it. I sometimes it does if you got two tough guys with same skill. Who's tougher, I guess, but I don't think that works here in this matchup.
Yeah. I mean, famous last words for me, but I'm not liking what the algorithm is throwing out this week. I've said
it picked Jimmy Crute.
No, I understand that the model has been pretty good, but oftentimes it's heavy on value plays here and not value plays that I would personally take. But we'll see, because I've been shut up many a time. Moving on to the next one, middleweight bout here. Number 9, Uriah Hall versus number 11, Chris Weidman.
Dylan, you're excited.
Am I, or am I sad? I think I'm sad. God, Chris Weidman. His most recent fight, his win over Omari Akhmedov, showed me that, he slowed down a little bit, but the skills that got him to the table are still there. However, his chin does not exist. And I'm just not confident that he can implement his wrestling game well enough that he won't eat one big shot from Uriah Hall, because I think it only takes one with the, amount of damage that Chris has had. Especially, he's had neck surgery, he's taken so much damage, had so many concussions. I don't know who the ref was for the Weidman versus Rockhold fight, but I kind of sort of
who the ref was.
Was it Herb Dean?
It was Herb Dean.
Herb Dean lets everything go for so long. It's so
I kind of sort of blame Herb Dean, to be honest, because he took so much unnecessary damage for that. And
I mean, these dudes in the locker room, when he comes in, I remember Dominic Smith saying it, they'll tell the refs hey, let me go out on my shield kind of thing. But Herb Dean takes that way to real. Like he's like, yeah, I'm gonna let them literally like destroy their brain when this is an obviously done fight.
I mean, you were not watching in the Mario Yamasaki era, so it has been worse.
Oh, I've seen him. I watched those montages. They're funny. Not funny like it's terrible, but it's funny that he was allowed in there.
I've just gotten a text from a friend asking for betting advice, which I'll bring up towards the end. It's actually very interesting. But yeah, so oh God, the Chris. He moved down to South Carolina. He's no longer training with Sarah, although he has Longo coming down. He's training with Wonder Boy, and that's great. But I think it's a little bit too late for him to sharpen up on any of his skills, because his skills aren't what's going to determine the outcome here. It is his durability, which is gone.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think Weidman has two major issues going into this fight. One, his chin is tissue paper, and two, his gas tank is just not there anymore. There have been a few moments here and there where he's shown that he can still go 3 rounds, but he had a really long stretch where like he would look okay for like a round and a half, 2 rounds. In the third round rolls around and his output's lower. He's not defending shots as well. He's not shooting for as good takedowns. On the other side, like, is Uriah Hall inconsistent? Abso-fucking-lutely. But he's got a decent guard. He's very willing to scramble or threaten submissions, and he's got power in his hands and in his kicks. Like, I don't have a reason to trust Chris Weidman to effectively grapple and stay safe for 3 rounds.
Yeah, and verdict has Weidman by decision.
He's a fan favorite.
He is a fan favorite. I understand why. I mean, especially like him winning the title was such a crazy moment.
Yeah.
Like he's still riding that, and like I understand why fans like him. You know, I really like him. You know, being a somewhat kind of sort of Sarah boy. It's like I love these guys, but fuck, man, I just don't see it going his way. This is also a rematch. They fought years ago in King of the Cage or something in some regional before either of them made it.
They fought in let's see, where is it? Uriah Hall. They fought in 2010 at Ring of Combat 31.
And Weidman won that fight.
A day before my 13th birthday.
That's useless information. Thank you, Connor.
Yeah, but it makes me feel special.
Listen. At the end of the day, Weidman is still my boy, and he's still the algorithm's boy as well, because it has Weidman as a 62% favorite. If you're throwing everything, you're throwing 11.9% on him because he is a favorite on the books as well. So we didn't catch a lot of value there, or we caught a medium amount of value, the pretty common one of the day. And then if you're throwing the fun, or you have a fun, you're throwing 0.69%. Now let me tell you my opinion. I think we're going to see, maybe they won't announce it in the octagon, but I think there are going to be two people retire after this card. I think it's possible we see Smith retire, and I think it's possible we see Weidman retire or cut, because I don't know. But because in my opinion, if Uriah Hall knocks Chris Weidman out, like this is what I think it could be similar to the Anderson Silva fight, where Chris Weidman might be winning early on by points, or Chris Weidman versus Uriah Hall. I'm talking about that last fight where Anderson Silva looked good until he got knocked out. I think we could see something like that with Chris Weidman versus Uriah Hall. But if Chris Weidman goes down from like one power shot, if you're the UFC, why do you keep him? Like, it's like at that point, you got to be like, okay, this guy, he was great and he did a lot for our company, but we're just letting this man sustain intense amount of injury for no reason.
I think if we've learned one thing from talking about today's card is that the UFC does not care about the health or safety of anyone around them, and that the only thing that matters is money. And at the end of the day, I think you might still be onto something, because Chris Weidman is still on a contract that is befitting a former champion. And I don't know that they can justify paying him as much as they do if he's not going to be a top 10 fighter anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
right. I think they cut him if he loses his fight. And I think Smith will have to take a long look at, long talk with his family, whatever, because he sustained a lot of damage. And if he goes out like quick in that fight, I don't know why he would do that to himself. But I mean, because he's tougher than me, and I'm a bitch compared to these guys. So
Smith doesn't retire. He's got two things going for him. One, he fights for fucking pennies, and two, how many times has he been like the last minute main event? He's very willing to step up on short notice. The UFC won't pay him or give him the credit that he's due as like a company man, but like he'll keep fighting for fucking nothing. He doesn't care. It's clearly he doesn't care about.
That's true. I mean, Dana's, it's all about money at the end of the day. So if they're receiving more from him than they're losing, they won't cut him. And if he doesn't want to retire, he won't. But I think Chris Weidman would be cut.
Bringing it back before we move on to Shevchenko Andrade, I get why Chris Weidman's the favorite. He's beaten Uriah Hall once before. He should be able to wrestle. Uriah Hall took 4 rounds to knock out a 39 or 40-year-old Anderson Silva. I get it. Actually, probably older than that at this point. Dylan, can you check how old he was? I'm actually curious.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't see Chris Weidman knocking out Uriah Hall. I don't see him submitting Uriah Hall, and that means I have to trust him to work for 3 hard rounds, and I don't trust him to do that either.
He was 40. He was either 46 or 45.
He was, he was 45.
Jesus, he's old.
Yeah. All right.
But this is my thing. Like like for that fight, if you want to dissect that fight, it wasn't that Anderson Silva was like doing so much better. It was Uriah Hall was extremely hesitant to.
But that's who Uriah Hall always is. If it takes
exactly. So I could see, and that matches my analysis because I literally can see Chris Weidman winning the fight early on and just getting knocked out like that, like Anderson Silva. I could see it going the exact same way, which would be sad.
All right, moving on to our next one here. The first of 3 title fights tonight, Saturday night rather. Women's flyweight champ Valentina Shevchenko defends against Jessica Andrade. Jessica Andrade is good. She's got good power in her hands, and it does not matter because she will lose to Valentina Shevchenko. She's undersized. Valentina is simply too good everywhere. I don't see a way that Jessica Andrade manages to win this one. Unless she manages some sort of like crazy flash knockout, but also like she's not going to do that to someone like Valentina. Her win against Rose Namajunas for the title relied entirely on Namajunas holding on to a Kimura when she shouldn't have and then getting dumped on her head. Valentina, that's not going to happen with her because even if Valentina makes a mistake like that, which she won't, she's Valentina Shevchenko, she's not going to be able to lift and slam her. Because, or at least not to the same extent. I know Dominic Cruz, as it was happening, saying she can't lift from there. Just on the basis that Valentina Shevchenko is much larger than Jessica Andrade, I don't see a similar situation happening. Valentina by decision or perhaps knockout, but
yeah. So I think your math is a little funky on that one because Shevchenko is smaller than Rose Namajunas, if I remember correctly, but. I think Shev is getting kind of into like a Khabib, Usman, GSP, Jones-esque territory where like they have to find something to say about each upcoming opponent where they start going, this is the real challenge. Nothing they fought before. Like I remember when Khabib fought Poirier and everyone was like, Poirier is going to be the real one to do him in. And then he fought Gaethje and everyone was like, Gaethje's going to be the one to do him in.
Yeah.
People are hyping up Andrade as like the real challenge to Shevchenko because there's nothing else to go on. Shevchenko loves fighting people who will aggressively charge in with minimal defense. This is a tailor-made matchup. She is stronger. She hits not as hard, but she hits hard, and she's willing to counterstrike and just move. I don't see any reason why I would expect this to be that competitive. I think there was a little disservice done to Rose, or to Andrade in that I think Andrade was starting to pick up before the knockout in the first fight with Rose, and I think she was definitely fucking Rose up in the rematch in the 3rd round. And if it had been 2 more, I would have expected her to get knocked out. But Shevchenko has the cardio. She has the technique. I don't know why I would expect Andrade to do better unless I seriously get surprised by it. I texted you guys about this earlier, but like, I think that there's only one competitive title fight on this card, and that's up next.
Yeah, I agree. And verdict agrees. Valentina by decision. 36% of the world, and pretty much everything else is Valentina by something. A total of 9% of people have picked Andrade in any way, shape, or form on verdict.
Yeah, and that's why that dictates what's going to happen here because we do also have Shevchenko as a 66% favorite. I want to say the biggest favorite on the card besides one fight. Yeah, this is the biggest favorite on the card, or tied for the 2nd biggest. And then it's literally the next 3 fights are the 3 biggest of the night. But so yeah, we have Shevchenko, 66% favorite, but the books, I mean, she's a humongous favorite. So obviously we caught value on Andrade. This is something I want to build into the algorithm. I don't think we should be taking 33% chance fights.
Mhm.
Even though the math works out where it's like, hey, if these odds are true, you'll make money on it because it's like we don't play these enough. But whatever, if you're going to follow the model strictly or the betting algorithm strictly, then you'll be putting 11.9% on Andrade, or if you have fun, you'll be putting 0.69%. I think you guys said it best. There's nothing else I could say besides I love Shevchenko and watching her fight, and I want them to put someone in front of her that can make her like shine more or fight
Hey,
better.
what's your favorite Shevchenko fight? Was it Maya, Chukagian, Carmouche?
There, I literally just like her. I think she's like charming. What's the word? Charismatic.
Simp is the word.
Simp.
That is also the word, but I'm a true simp for Rose.
All right.
Oh,
Under Rose.
agree.
So that's a lovely segue of sorts because our next title fight is Weili Zhang defending her strawweight title against Rose Namajunas. So Rose Namajunas is very technical. She's a great kickboxer and she has some grappling skills in there too. You know, I don't know that I necessarily agree with you, Connor, about the Andrade fight, for the title. Namajunas versus Andrade would have gone to a knockout or gone to Andrade pulling out the win if that slam hadn't happened. That being said, regardless, I like Rose. I think she's very good. I do not think she's going to get the win here because Weili Zhang has more power than Rose Namajunas has, and Weili Zhang has shown herself to be able to do 5-round kickboxing wars with Joanna the same way that Rose Namajunas has. I originally thought that there was no way that Zhang was going to win the title when she was given the title shot against Andrade. I thought that they had just put her there because it was a show in China, and that may be the case, but she proved herself to be worthy and knocked out Andrade in under a minute. I think she's super solid. I think she's the future, and I don't think anyone's touching her in this division. And I think Rose is the closest anyone's going to get.
So I think a couple things. To clarify all right, goodbye, Dylan. To clarify what I was saying again about Andrade Namajunas, the first fight, I don't think it's that Andrade would have necessarily won had she not knocked out Namajunas anyway. I think it's just that like the fight was shaping up to be a lot closer than the first and second round demonstrated. This is a really difficult fight for me to call. I don't actually think Zhang, first off, Magnum Zhang, such a good nickname. Although I don't know if it's actually, is it Weili Zhang or Zhang Weili?
It depends on where you look.
Her family name is Zhang, so properly it would be Zhang Weili, but when they arrange it as the American way, it's Weili Zhang. So either is correct for us to be talking about it, essentially.
Okay, so I don't think she's actually that unbeatable. I think I scored the Jacek fight for Joanna over Zhang. I'm biased towards Jacek. I really like her. She's one of my favorite fighters. But that being said, I think Zhang has a better gas tank. I think she's much more capable of being consistent. Rose tends to start rounds really intensely and then kind of taper off pretty rapidly. And I think Zhang has competent enough grappling, and she hits fucking hard. Namajunas she's an extremely live dog. This is like one of those fights where I would probably just bet on whoever the underdog was because I would not be confident in who's going to win. I'm very curious to hear what the algorithm has to say. But Namajunas didn't like really getting hit by the second or third round of the second Andrade fight. I think 2 more rounds would have seen her finished. She's gonna have 5 rounds of sitting there with Zhang, who's a very competent counter striker. I'm gonna take Zhang. Yeah, that I guess that's all I got to say about this. I don't feel confident in any pick whatsoever in this one.
And verdict has it close, but Zhang Weili by decision is the most common pick in the world.
The algorithm agrees. It has Zhang Weili as a 65% favorite as well. Or 66 as well. Listen, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why it says what it says, but obviously, or actually not obviously, the books have the Zhang as a bigger favorite and they have Rose as less of an underdog as we do. So he caught no value here. Personally, I think you guys also pretty much broke that down pretty well. But I like Rose, so I hope she wins.
Hope she fucking loses. Hate Rose.
I mean, we didn't
Hi.
even touch on her
Knocked out my
weird
Goblin Queen.
subplot, where she was subplot, where she was like,
we have to talk about the
yeah.
subplot. We have
So,
to talk about
so Rose Namajunas was basically saying that part of what's motivating her in this fight is the like better dead than red, like anti-communist mentality, and like her parents were Lithuanian, so they obviously suffered under communism. And obviously, I don't think it needs to be said here, but communism is fucking bad. But that being said, all of that aside, and also, fuck the CCP. China is in the middle of a genocide. Fuck them. This, that, whatever. Like, I don't mean to diminish that in any way. Seriously, fuck the government of China. But if Wei Li
the
Zhang,
government. That's emphasis
yes,
on
fuck
the
the
government.
government of China, yes. But if Wei Li Zhang had any criticism of the government of China, she would literally not be allowed to say it. If she said anything, she would disappear legitimately as one of the big stars of the country. So this whole, fuck you, you communist, like Wei Li Zhang is a fighter. Who knows if she even cares about politics? And also, if she did care and if she did want to speak out, she couldn't. So this whole mentality for Rose Namajunas is bullshit, and I hate it.
Yeah, to go on what you said, some evidence of what you said. I mean, if we not too long ago, we remember that Panarin is a Ranger, New York Ranger. He's very famous. He's not some nobody. Spoke out against Putin, another like socialist regime, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's terrible what's going on in Russia's government as well. And he got he got literally targeted by Russia's like I don't know what you want to call it, whatever team they are. They put out fake stories about things that he quote unquote did, which he didn't, and then they threatened his family or something, and he had to stop playing like for a little bit, and he had to sort that out. So it's like if that happened to him with Russia, that could easily happen to Zhang Weili with China, and she's just trying to make money and do her thing. So I think I agree with you guys. It's weird that Rose is saying that as an attack to Zhang Weili because if anything, Zhang Weili is like a victim of that kind of treatment and abuse too, because she's from there. So it's like it's not really, it doesn't make sense to me, but it's weird. I like that someone's speaking out against China, like because of the genocide they're doing, the government that is, but to come after a person that lives there is a little weird.
Yeah, I mean, another example of that same scenario is Enes Kanter with the New York Knicks. He spoke out against Erdogan, the leader of Turkey, and gotten hot shit from it as well. So yeah, it's not Zhang Weili's fault that she was born in an authoritarian hellhole of a country.
It's also to summarize it neatly, it's very fucking weird that Rose, who markets herself on being the very quiet, extremely nice person, who is fighting Zhang Weili, who is an incredibly nice, polite, and quiet person, would be like, oh, fuck her, fake personality, bitch. And it's just like, where the, shut up, Rose.
Sometimes the thing I think, if we want to drink to psychology, and this is speculation, I've never been in a fight like this, and I'm probably wrong, but my thought process is that she might be not scared, but she might be nervous of the potential loss that could income because she knows this is a huge opportunity. So she might be trying to psych herself up or something if it's out of character because it is kind of out of character. So it has to have you asking, why is she doing this now?
2 words: wolf tickets. All right.
Yeah,
Moving on
doing.
to the next one, the main event. Absolute fucking bullshit. I fucking hate it. It's garbage.
These are wolf tickets.
This is bullshit.
Number one bullshit.
Kamaru Usman defends his welterweight title against Jorge Masvidal. So, oftentimes in MMA, a guy will fight the champion. They will lose. And then they will have to go on and fight a few other top-ranked contenders to get their way back to the champion. In this scenario, Jorge Masvidal fought Kamaru Usman and lost. The champion then went on to fight and knock out another top contender. Jorge Masvidal has done nothing. Jorge Masvidal is getting another title shot, coming off a loss to this same dude where he got dominated on the scorecards. And the entire narrative that Masvidal is pushing is, I was a late notice replacement. It's not like his cardio is what, was the cause of the problem here, right? He just got outworked by Usman the entire time. I think Usman, with an entire training camp dedicated to Masvidal, will be better. And I think that he will finish Masvidal this time. The idea, the thought in my head of like Masvidal knocking out Usman, it wouldn't be the craziest thing that's ever happened in MMA. There have been bigger upsets, but there is absolutely no reason in terms of like the actual sport aspect of this that Masvidal deserves the shot. The only reason he's getting this title shot is money, and I understand that the UFC works that way sometimes. but coming off of a loss to this same fucking dude who has gone on to defend his title elsewhere since, this is, I won't definitively say the worst pay-per-view main event in history, but it is up there. Okay, tell me.
Unless it isn't.
Tell me a worse, like on paper, pay-per-view main event. What?
Cyborg versus Kunitskaya, Nunes versus Spencer, Adesanya versus Silva.
I disagree with all those. Not in terms of like my excitement, because those like sucked. And the Adesanya versus Silva one, that was like because of a last minute cancellation. That doesn't even like count in my mind.
How about versus Sonnen, where Sonnen was coming off a loss at a different weight class?
Okay, there you go. There's a good comparison. But the thing is, Masvidal just lost to this same guy. Like, it's one thing if you have an untested challenger coming in to fight a champion when they really don't deserve it, but he literally has already been tested against this same champion and lost unanimously. Was it 50-45 or was it 49-46?
I think it was a mix of both.
Yeah, I mean, there is no reason that this fight should be happening again besides money. I've seen crazier shit happen than Masvidal winning by knockout here, but I see in my head Usman knocking out Masvidal and a bunch of salty fans being like, Snoozman, he's boring, as if he didn't break Colby Covington's jaw and knock the fuck out of Gilbert Burns. Sorry, he did the smart thing against an opponent on short notice. Bullshit. Get the fuck out of here with this fight.
Or UFC 208, where Holly Holm was coming off of a 2-fight loss streak to get a title shot, which she lost. I think this is one of the worst main events, but it is nowhere near the worst main event for a pay-per-view.
It's just he lost to Usman and has done nothing else since, and Usman has fought since.
Oh, sure. I'm not denying.
Why it's
also kind of crazy. I mean, if we want to even go back in time a little further, I know he was a late replacement, and that's why I got the fight, and he was like, whatever. So I guess you could say this isn't true, but a win over Nate Diaz, who I love, but a win over Nate Diaz got him 2 title fights back to back.
Oh, nobody pretends like Masvidal belongs at the top of this conversation.
No, it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
His one relevant win at this point is a dude who just got knocked the fuck out by Jake Paul. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
No, you're right.
No, I think Darren Till was a decent win.
Yeah. Was it? Well, how good is Darren Till in your opinion?
Because Darren Till isn't. Well, no.
Let me lay out his record for you. Wins over nobodies through Bojan Veličković, a win over Donald Cerrone, who was massively undersized, a win over Stephen Thompson, 2 straight losses, a split decision win in which he looked very mediocre against Kelvin Gastelum, and then a loss to Robert Whittaker. Darren Till,
the
fighter in the UFC,
but the way in which he beat Darren Till with a stiff knockout is pretty impressive to me, considering Darren Till is very good at going to the decision and getting like. I mean, he is. Who else finished him? Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley was a beast at that time.
I'm not saying that Darren Till isn't tough.
No, I'm saying the win is impressive because it wasn't like one of like Darren Till controls it, whether you hate him or not or like him or not. He makes fighters fight his fight for the most part. Besides Wonderboy, I feel like that could have been his fight as well. Like they're kind of similar. They're like picky strikers. Yeah. Right. But besides that, people fight his fight when he's in the octagon. Some people beat him at his own game, which is like, okay, fair. But Jorge Masvidal was able to impose his tempo on someone that not a lot of people can do that on, besides Tyron Woodley, when Tyron Woodley was a beast. So I think that was impressive win.
Yeah.
But other than that, I'm
also losing the fight for a big portion of the first round, if I remember correctly. Anyway, going back to the actual fight, maybe Usman can catch him by surprise, right? He landed some good shots. Colby landed some good shots. Masvidal landed some good shots. Gilbert Burns rocked and dropped Usman at one point. But all signs point to another 50-45 decision. I literally don't have any reason to expect Masvidal to do better. If I remember correctly, Poirier in the build-up to the fight said that Masvidal was actively training as a last, like just in case he had to step in. And if that's true,
Tyron Woodley said that too.
Okay, yeah. Then wait, why would Woodley know about that? He doesn't train at.
Woodley said he was over there. Woodley said he was. So when Woodley got interviewed with Ariel about like the Jake Paul stuff and how like he had an incident or whatever, it doesn't matter. Then he asked Woodley what he thought about Masvidal.
Okay.
Whatever. And then he said he knew for a fact that Masvidal's a dog and he was training for that fight.
Yeah. So, okay.
Or he was just training. Maybe not for the fight, he was training.
You have a guy who was actively in the middle of a training camp who's going to have the same training camp against a champion who's notably improving. Like I said, maybe he can get knocked out. It's entirely possible. But why the fuck would you bet on that unless you're a stand for Street Jesus who baptizes fools and is a fucking fake loser? Fuck Masvidal. Get
AKA
him
the
out.
entirety of all Instagram comments.
I don't like QAnon. I don't like Masvidal.
Yeah, Masvidal's a piece of shit. I fucking hate him, and I hope that Kamaru Usman collects another jaw. That would make me happy. So the text that I mentioned from my friend that I got while we were recording this basically said, how would you feel about a parlay on all three champs? Now, I will ignore that my friend suggested throwing way too much money because he's an idiot. But I think a parlay on all three champions sounds pretty fucking nice to me.
I mean, if we want to talk about is it actually a smart move, it's very stupid because if you think about the math of a parlay, you have let's say we actually assign true probabilities. Let's say we said Kamaru, Zhang, and Valentina Shevchenko all have a 90% chance of winning.
Mm-hmm.
Then if you parlayed on that, your chance of winning that parlay, even if you thought it was each one had a 0.9 chance, would be 72. So it goes, actually, if you thought 0.9, then you're chilling. But
right.
I mean, you don't think 0.9 for most of them. I think anytime you parlay, it's kind of stupid. It would be fun. How much money is he willing to throw? That's the question.
I will say too much. I respond
because they're all heavy favorites, so you're not really getting too much out of this.
Right, but you combine three of them. What I said was I said throw less. Just throw less than you're planning on throwing, because he does this a lot. So yeah,
it could be fun though. I mean, it's not for Kamaru and Shevchenko. I mean, and Zhang. Yeah, I guess it's like a pretty decent fucking play.
Yeah. I mean, I like it.
What does verdict say?
Oh, did I not mention verdict for that one? I think you'll all be terribly surprised to hear that Kamaru Usman by decision is the most common pick.
Yeah, Jorge Masvidal is not the favorite.
Yeah.
I see what I did there. We have Kamaru Usman as a 69% favorite. The books have Jorge Masvidal as a humongous underdog. This is one of those scenarios where I think I want to fix where it makes a play on someone who's a 29% favorite, or it's 29 point something % chance of winning. Why are we putting money on that? But if you're going to listen straight up, then 11.9 on Jorge. If you're throwing everything at 0.69, a bit of fun. The thing I'll say about this fight is that Burns hurt Usman in the first round. And I know Burns, I think at least Burns is better than Jorge. So I'm not saying Jorge is a better Burns, but Burns hurt Usman. And I saw a lot of like fighters, because I respect their opinion, fighters talking about that. And they said if Burns would have jumped on Usman with everything he had there could have been a shot, and that was his only chance. So, I mean, that just proves that Jorge can land something to hurt Usman. He's got a puncher's choice. To be fair, everyone's got a puncher's choice, though, so that's also a stupid thing to say. But, yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree with you guys. I think.
How do you always do this? You're now just messing up actual words. It's puncher's chance. The phrase is it's a puncher's
chance.
How would that make any sense?
I got a lot on my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I've chosen in the face.
I would have liked to see a Colby Covington rematch. That's what I really want to see. I thought their first fight was one of my favorite fights I've ever seen in my life.
You Wonder Boy.
I think Wonder Boy.
I would also be happy with that because we haven't seen Usman Wonder Boy yet.
But now we're getting Wonder Boy versus Burns, which also sounds like a very fun fight.
That's a great fight too. I just think Colby, if we want to talk about rematches, why are you rematching first? It should have been Colby.
Yeah, I think there's more money in a Colby rematch, and I think there's more. I find that fight to be more interesting, and at least Colby's had a win since.
Especially because everyone has, like, obviously I don't think you two were ever on the Masvidal train, but a lot of casuals are, and they all jumped off once they saw him hanging out with Jake Paul, even though he wasn't actually, like, it was like just a stupid photo op, but like everyone hates him now. He like went from like the most liked by casuals to like the cringes now.
They still like him enough to be all over Instagram talking about snoozman and whatever bullshit.
Post-slap season.
At the end of the day, I genuinely hope that Masvidal loses and loses badly so he can get the fuck out of the title scene and never return. Yeah, that's kind of it. Can you imagine
this? Imagine Masvidal wins, and imagine the UFC sees more money in the Nate Diaz Masvidal rematch, so they complete.
Okay, so I've muted Johnny because that's some fucking bullshit, and I think we're gonna close that here. So, absolutely not even considering that train of thought. We're gonna close this, and we'll talk to you guys next week.